Hey guys, Tom LoBianco here. I'm the editor and co-founder of 24/7 News. Welcome to the very first episode of Tom LoBianco Reports. I'm not Abdul. I don't always speak in the third person, but for now I am. So here's what we're going to do with this. All right. This is a news show. We're going to be hosting it every day, weekday at noon. Running about 20 to 30 minutes. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you with me on a reporting trip. All right. The best way to find out what's going on in the world is through the reporting. Okay. The facts, the answers, everything lies in that process. Okay. And we're going to go deep. We're going to go deep on a few things that are tough. All right. We're going to go deep on what the hell is happening right now in this country. And we're going to follow the reporting. Okay. I've been a reporter for over 20 years, maybe 25 years, something like that. Been doing this a very long time. Covered state politics. I've covered local politics. Been covering national politics for a while now. I've been covered 3 presidential races, the White House, Congress, Supreme Court. Man, you name it. I've covered droughts. I've covered county zoning meetings. I've covered a lot of stuff. Okay, so I know how this stuff works. And I'll tell you that uh, the answer in all things, no matter where you are, is in what we find out along the way. So for our first episode of Tom LoBianco Reports, I figured we'd dive right in with a fairly existential question. Something that's it's a little tough. Not gonna lie. There's a lot of stuff going on right now in the country, and I figure we just go right at it. What if Trump refuses to leave office? What if he attempts to run again? What if he even doesn't bother to run again? What if he just says, I'm sticking around? What if he never gets on Marine Force One at the end of his constitutionally term limited second term? What do we know? Okay. This is an issue which keeps coming up. Trump himself brings it up repeatedly, hints at it, flicks at it, says things which may or may not be, an accurate reflection of what he will actually do. He seems to enjoy trolling about it. Folks around him who have been around him a very long time, Steve Bannon, they talk about this repeatedly. So let's just go right at it. Okay. What do we know about this process? I'm going to bring up some notes here as we go along. I'm joined by my friend, Ian Walters. Ian is producing the show here with me. And I'll tell you that Ian knows this stuff. Part of the reason we decided to build this show together is we're kind of nerds about this stuff. We enjoyed digging into it. This is you're basically getting the equivalent of what hanging out with me and Ian would be like on a Friday night at the bar, minus the alcohol. Okay, for now at least. Maybe we'll do some future shows where there's some imbibing. This is what we get into. All right, this is how we kind of figure these things out. I'm gonna pull up a few notes. Nerds unite. That's right, Lindsay. Yes, nerds of the world unite. I'm going to pull up a few notes here as we get started. Okay. Um, so let's just start from what do we know about this? Okay. What do we know about term limits or why presidents can only serve 2 terms? All right. What are the rules here? As if you're watching this and you're a loyal viewer, you're a politics nerd, you know that the Constitution in the United States is the supreme power of the land. This is the document that is written, created, modified, altered, adjudicated on based on our form, our very unique and incredible form of representative democracy. Okay, so the Constitution is the supreme power here. And if you look at where this comes from, ironically enough, it comes from somebody who broke a norm. Now we all know Trump likes to break norms. All right, he likes to break traditions. All right, break a few laws too. But this actually comes from Franklin Delano Roosevelt, who was the first president, and as of now, the last president to ever serve more than 2 terms. Okay. This was something that was established as a bedrock of American tradition by George Washington himself. Okay. Doing only 2 terms. All right. FDR during the Depression into World War II, even before we enter World War II, all right, was saying, all right, you know what? This is the Democrats' argument back in 1940. We were not in the war at that point. Okay. We're saying you can't change horses mid race. All right. You got to stick with them. And there's nothing barring it at that point. All right. So FDR ran again and he won again. And he ran again in the middle of the war, 1944, and won again. Okay. That was all perfectly constitutional at that point. Okay. Didn't stay that way for long. All right. 1947. All right. What's the constitutional process? What does the 22nd Amendment to the Constitution say? It says presidents can only serve 2 terms. All right. How do we get that? Constitutional amendment process, 1947. All right. Got to vote 2/3 of the House, 2/3 of the Senate to pass, and then it has to be ratified in the states. All right, so state legislatures get together and they vote on the joint resolutions that is a constitutional amendment. Simple majority has to be ratified within a certain period of 3/4 of the states. So 36 states said yes to this. 36 state legislatures said yes to this. So 1951, we got the 22nd Amendment saying, all right, 2 terms is the max. That's what we got. All right. You're not doing more than that. Okay. Over the years, and this is really fascinating, over the years, a number of presidents, Reagan, Clinton, hell, there was a Jose Serrano who used to be in the Congress from the Bronx for years. So it's Richie Torres now represents that district or whatever the current iteration of that district is. He used to push to try to end that. All right. So over the years, there have been efforts. Hell, even Harry Truman, who was grandfathered in, he was not term limited because he was grandfathered in. All right. And he did run again, but ultimately pulled out. All right. When he had a very poor showing in New Hampshire, he was allowed to run again. Okay. Grandfathering in because he was in place before the 22nd Amendment was ratified. Uh, People have tried to undo this over the years. And I will tell you that there is a House measure being debated or potentially being debated. Let's see how real it is. That was put in by U.S. Representative Andy Ogles of Tennessee, a big Trump supporter like most Republicans these days, that would amend the Constitution again to allow for a non-consecutive serving president, non-consecutive terms to run again. That's important because what does that do? That would actually bar people like Clinton and Obama, our former presidents who are still alive. For some miraculous case, W decided he wanted to do it again. That would bar them from doing it because they serve consecutive terms, but allow Trump to do it. All right. Now I'm going to say this. That's a bullshit bill. They ain't going anywhere. Right? What do we just say about this? We just says 2/3 in the House, 2/3 in the Senate. There's no way to get there. All right. Things are so evenly divided in both chambers that even if miraculously you're able to get it passed, then you have to put it out through the states. This is something that's never going to happen. Okay. Now, yes, Lindsay Hack here says rules for thee, but not me. This is kind of the dynamic we're getting into. All right. So we started from normalcy, which is what we're all used to. All right. We are all used to the rule of law, following the Constitution. All right. Guess what? You lose an election, you leave. Sucks. Happens to a lot of people. Hell, sometimes you even run again. Okay. Sometimes it works. All right. That's normalcy. Why are we talking about this now? Why is this not the province of science fiction, some shitty L. Ron Hubbard novel? All right. Uh, Sorry, L. Ron. Because we're not in a time of normalcy right now. And it's very hard to gauge when President of the United States, who has made a gift shop out of this thing. I don't know if you guys have seen this. I'll try to put up some photos later. We get this in post production. All right. And folks, if you miss this, you miss the beginning of this. All right. Head on over to Political Voices Network. This is the project that I'm doing together with the folks over at Political Voices Network. And they'll be putting together, they'll be dialing this thing up. I don't know if they're going to do any AI to me. I got to work on that stuff myself, but they will be inserting some video clips, some graphics and whatnot, making this thing look real nice. Uh, Head on over there after this. Head on over there this evening and get the full video. All right. This production that me, 24 Site News and Political Voices Network, we're doing this together. And it's awesome. All right. So, why is Trump trolling on this? Why is Steve Bannon keep talking about this? All right. What is the purpose of this? All right. How real is it? Well, we know from having, followed Trump for more than a decade now, really in American politics, his words don't really line up with action. That's not a very good indicator of what will or will not happen. But we also know that his actions very often attempt to circumvent the Constitution, the supreme power of our land. Okay. We know this because of the historic coup attempt at the Capitol on January 6th. Now, did Trump show up there? No. Secret Service wouldn't let him. Oh, you know that from testimony. All right. He was not allowed to go there. Did he tell everybody to go to the Capitol? Yes, he did. Did he repeat the lies which fueled the insurrection repeatedly? Did he pardon the people who attacked the cops, who smeared feces, literal feces on the walls of the United States Capitol? One of the first acts he did when coming back in. Yes, he did. All right, he pardoned them. So we have his actions here. Do we have masked federal agents running around in the streets in the cities of America, the suburbs of America, hell, up in Westminster, Maryland, not too far from where I'm at, smashing in car windows, trying to grab people off the streets, send them to El Salvador? They just took back Gilmar Abrego Garcia in an ICE check-in today after he was released temporarily. This is a developing story, and I guarantee we'll have more on that in another episode of Tom LoBianco Reports. These are all things that are happening that are not normal. It's not normal for our military to be turned inward in this country. Is it a clear violation of the Constitution? These things are being adjudicated. Okay. There's a fine balancing act right now. So it's very hard to tell what will actually happen. All right. It's very hard to tell whether or not Trump will try to stay beyond his time in office. Okay. We just don't know. All right. We just don't know about that. I'm checking my notes here. So what we're going to do is we're going to try to figure out, based on his actions, all right, what we know, what could happen. This is part one. We're opening with the big dog here, okay? We're opening with the big one, which is basically what happens if America ends, all right? If a president violates the Constitution, violates the representative democracy, and says, I'm staying around, that's a status coup, all right? As the end, that is an end of democracy. Is the permanent end of democracy? No, not at all. All right. Other countries have gone through this and have come back from it. And for real fans of 24 Site News, I recommend you check out Trygve Olsen's 7 Rules for Fighting Autocrats. I was doing that series with Reed Galen and Trygve Olsen. And he's worked on this around the world, so he knows about the tactics of people who have successfully fought autocrats and neo-autocrats, attempts at autocracy. Okay. So this is the first episode of a series where we're going to be digging into this. It's pretty big. What would happen? All right. Future episodes, we're going to be talking about, all right, what if he does try not to leave? What would that look like? Like, is it him grabbing onto the Resolute desk? Is the Secret Service for I don't know, JD Vance, uh, Mark Cuban, Zoran Mondani, whoever wins the race in 2028? Is that something where he tries to hold on as they're dragging him out? Does he attempt to declare martial law? These these are the questions that we're going to dig into here. Okay. I see a note from Wolf of Wall, Ruth Clark. Ruth, yes. For folks, if you're watching this later, you can always catch us here live on Substack at noon every weekday. All right, noon. Taking the Ruth Clark says quotes the Wolf of Wall Street. I don't mind cursing. We probably shouldn't do this too much for YouTube. Says quoting the Wolf of Wall Street. I'm not fucking leaving. There could be that. That is absolutely something that could happen. Okay. And during late, I see you. You're saying that this is a distraction. Could be. It absolutely could be. All right. We won't know. All right. And this is something that I work on as a reporter. This is why I'm doing this. Try to cut through the distractions. Try to really get a sense of, all right, what's real? All right. Can the federal government just completely eliminate the state level actions on elections? Like, can the federal government override states in administering their elections? The answer to that is not. No, they really can't. Not entirely. And that will be another show that we'll have to look at. So the goal here is to really cut through the hyperbole and use the reporting. Okay. Lindsay Haight says, without no snark here, and that's good to point out. Can we be assured the DOJ will carry out any orders if we indeed get to that point? I think we have some tea leaves that we can read here, some things in the actions. All right, that now that we are further into this second Trump term, we have a better sense of how they are operating in there. Is the Justice Department no longer at arm's length from the White House, from the executive branch? Yes, absolutely. We know that now. All right. Investigating mortgage fraud, alleged mortgage fraud for, I think it was Letitia James, Adam Schiff, Lisa Cook, person he wants to remove from the board of the Fed. All right. These are all things that are targeted at perceived political opponents. Okay. So that we do know about. Okay. Absolutely. But we also know that some normalcy, some important normalcy still applies. My colleague at 24 Site, Julie Grace Brufke, wrote extensively and reported extensively from the Hill on the one, quote, the one big beautiful bill. Well, if if the White House, the executive, were not following the law and we're not, just acting as a dictator functionally, then there would not be a need for any legislation. That would not have to happen. So we're trying to parse things as we go. If you guys have not signed up already, make sure to subscribe to 24 Site News. That's me right there, 24 Site News, 24SIGHT.news. All right. Every morning, I'm going to send out some quick show notes. All right. And it's going to tee up what we're talking about. All right. And give some food for thought. If you can make it here every day at noon, join the chat. All right. Come on by. I know there's some Russians in the app. I hear from them every now and then, usually when I make fun of Matt Taibbi. Can't imagine why that's the case, but they usually show up for that. That's fine. Russians are welcome too. Everybody's welcome. All right. I'm probably going to screen some of the chat. If I know you in real life, all right, you're more likely that I'm going to read your question. All right. If you have a question or if you have a topic you want to see us get to, drop it in here. Okay. Thank you, Lindsay. Thank you. You can also reply to my email that I send out every morning. All right. And they'll go right to me. We'll take a look at it. Mostly serious stuff we're getting into. Here, well, I'll read this from Enduring Light. I don't know Enduring Light, but this, is framed in a serious way. Let's see. Here's a question. First foreign policy speech candidate rapprochement, Russia, 2014, change of gov and Russiagate strategy to ensure U.S. would be unable to back away from the march to. What's that? So I don't understand the question here. Well, somebody who Enduring Light, and I don't know you, but you put some effort into this question. I will tell you that as somebody who covered the Russian investigations when that happened, that was real. And I would encourage everybody to read the Senate intelligence report that was produced. It was a very good report into what actually happened. What happened? Not a hoax. Russia helped Trump win in 2016. Now, did they, write a contract? Did they sign their names? All right. Did they, they send each other love letters and say, hey, 100% guaranteed this is foreign interference, the potentially treasonous interference in the 2016 election? No, not at all. That's not what happened. What they did do is they ran a disinformation campaign in 2016, which really has continued on. This is not unsurprising. You'll recall that that two of the biggest Trump supporters out there, Benny Johnson and Tim Pool, very popular podcast folks these days, were paid $400,000 by a Russian intermediary last year. They say they were the victims in that. Now, the march to war in 2022, Ukraine, Putin's been pushing for this since 2014. Was it a mistake for Obama basically to abdicate Crimea, all right, to not be seriously involved there? Possibly. That's a foreign policy debate. Was Trump involved in trying to leverage, effectively extort the then new president, Volodymyr Zelensky, in 2019 into performing a political hit job on his expected opponent, Joe Biden? Yes, that also happened too. It resulted in his first impeachment. Was Russia active in this last election? Absolutely, they were. Those are all real things that happened. So we are going to be investigating all of these as we go along. For now, Ian, here we go. We got Ian, producer Ian, July 13th, 2018, indictment. Yes, this is great. Guys, if you're watching live, make sure, and I'll send this around, the federal indictment of the Internet Research Agency, which was the Russian troll farm, the online troll farm, which was put together by Mueller's team. Arguably I would say the most important work product to come out of that, details at length what they did, including coming here coming to the U.S. physically under false auspices and buying up servers, and then and then also running fake groups online with very real effects. All right. It was very, very, very important. And we have that evidence. Okay. So we know about this. All right. So, what we're going to be doing, me and Ian and the folks with Political Voices Network, every day at noon, we're going to be having a little chat about one story. We're going to do one story. Will Trump leave in 2028? That's a big story. That's a beat unto itself, as we'd say in the reporting world. So we're going to be doing more stories about that tomorrow. All right. Come on back tomorrow. Make sure if you haven't signed up already, make sure to subscribe up there. 24 Site News. You'll get the email detailing what we're going to be talking about. All right. Give you a little bit more about some of the reporting behind what we're talking about. We're going to be talking about the federal occupation of DC. What does that look like? What is happening? How much of this is legal? All right. I think the answer is going to surprise you. All right. And I'll tell you, that's why I love reporting. That's why I do this. The answer is always surprising. All right. So if you haven't already, sign up 24 Site News, 24site.news, 24sight dot news. All right. And come on back tomorrow. All right. Bring your questions, reply to me on email. You can drop it down here in the chat. And we're going to be doing these 5 days a week. And look forward to seeing you again tomorrow at noon. All right. See you guys. Cheers.